Book 6, Tools for Psychic Work. If you speak to 100 different psychic or energy workers, you'll likely get at least 50 to 100 different ways of getting messages from your higher self. Each of us must come up with our own best way of connecting. I'll give you some options, but you have to play around to find what works best for you in any given moment. Ultimately, tools are just a way to allow your own intuition and connection to your higher knowing to be made more clear to you and perhaps to those you're helping. Each tool is a physical way to make your ethereal gifts more tangible in the physical world. Do you need to use tools in your psychic work? Heck no. They're a wonderful way to start and to get more clear on the meanings of what you pick up, but over time you may find that you can do just as much without any tools at all. One of the biggest pitfalls that can limit the growth of your abilities would be to get stuck on your tools and treat them as the source of your magic, rather than realizing they just give the physicality to the abilities already living inside of you. These tools are not giving you your psychic answers. They are simply a tangible way for you to see and touch your own inner gifts. The psychic messages coming through are always coming through you. Now that we've cleared that up, let's check out some fun psychic tools that you can use to gain a better understanding and clarity when communicating with your higher knowing. Working with your gut or intuition. Ultimately, our goal in psychic work is to gradually pull away from needing to use tools to connect with our psychic abilities, and to eventually have your psychic messages come through internally, so no matter where you go or what you have with you, your gifts will always be freely accessible to you. Further development of your gut connection is really easy to achieve. Just keep practicing. The more experience you get practicing your intuitive reading, the easier it will become to recognize the clear answers inside of you. Gut exercises. Sensing others. As you develop comfort with sensing your own gut, you can begin to use it to sense the truth for others as well. It often takes some practice, but over time you'll find that you can come to do readings for others or even be your own human lie detector. For this exercise, it will require a practice partner and a list of true-false questions to try it out. Just make sure the question's benign and about things your practice partner is comfortable with and will want to share. It's helpful if they're familiar with gut work, but it isn't absolutely necessary, as long as they are completely honest through the exercise. Using this skill is very similar to using it for your own internal work. The first step is always clearing the gut space by removing all emotional junk and expectations that are clogging up your senses. See the Preparing the Body section for more information on clearing space. Once your belly is open, relaxed, and calm, then use your tester statements to ensure you have a clear ability to read. Start with something that is factually true. For example, the color of your eyes. Make it a statement. My eyes are blank. You can say this in your mind or out loud if you prefer. See how that feels in your gut. Sometimes there is a very little shift from the open and relaxed state to the feeling of truth, if any at all. After waiting for a few seconds, try a factually false statement. For example, my eyes are orange. See if you can sense any shift inside your belly. Keep practicing back and forth between true and false statements until you have a clear distinction between the two. If you're getting stuck, then use statements that do have more passion behind them. For example, I love my job, or I hate my job. Once you have a clear sense of true and false, work together with your practice partner to try and read their statements. Have them say things to you that they know to be true or false, but that you won't necessarily know. See if you can get a gut read on each statement. Try numbering 5 to 20 statements and have them say them to you, and then you write down your gut sense of each statement next to the number on your scrap paper. When you're finished, you can compare your gut responses with their true or false statements. I like to do this without even looking at the person, so I'm not distracted by their facial expressions, but do what's comfortable for you. Some of you have been using this sense your whole life without knowing it, and making it a conscious effort will just bring awareness and intention to something that you've always been in touch with. For others, this will be a new skill you can practice and develop over time. In my own healing practice, I use this every moment of my day. It's not that people intentionally lie during sessions, although that can very rarely be the case when someone's ashamed or uncomfortable with the truth. More commonly, people are lying to themselves. which can sound absolutely sincere on the outside, but which will flag my gut and let me know that we've found a point that we need to dig into and explore more deeply. Be sure that you are working for the other person's greatest good at all times. If you're not sure, then ask yourself if you're digging into this area for them or for you. Are you working on their healing, or are you trying to prove yourself or win? Please note that if a person has not sought your healing help, poking in these areas can be very intrusive and can often trigger subconscious defense mechanisms with a strong emotional response, be it tears or very passionate anger. As with everything else, the most important thing in energy work is to work with permission. If someone hasn't asked for your scrutiny, then digging into these areas is not healing at all. If you're not working with permission, then you're not working with the light. Be mindful of your motivation when you're reading others. Practical exercise. Picking your stone. While this exercise is technically another test of trusting your gut, it's a more tangible way to get a feel for your internal psychic sensations with more appreciable real-world results. To begin, lay out a series of stones in front of you, or a pile of small objects that are yours or not yours. You can visit a crystal shop, raid your kid's toy box, grab a bunch of stones from a local stream or lake or park, or whatever works for you. Just try to have a series of at least 5 random objects laid out in front of you. When you have your items gathered, first see if any particular one is drawing your eye or appears more in focus or brighter than the others around it. This can be your first hint that an item may be for you. Make note of anything that you sense. Once you've gotten a visual sense of each stone, try passing one or both of your hands over each object in turn to see if you get a feeling or sensation from any particular one. Once again, make note of anything that you feel. If you did get a sense of a single object that calls to you, then pull it forward and lay it in front of you. Push the other objects back. If you didn't get called by any one item, don't worry. We'll just get you to try each object in turn with the following exercise. To begin, set the object a short distance in front of you so it's not touching you nor in your immediate energetic field. When you're ready, take a moment to check in with your body. Get a feel for what state you're in right now. Are there any points of tension? Any emotions coming up? What are your thoughts focused on? Just get a feel for what it feels like to be you in this moment. I call this blanking your body or getting your blank state. You can think of this like your baseline, or like a blank canvas that will soon be painted with a new energy that you sense. When you have a really good sense of the mental, physical, and emotional state of you and your body right now, then you can pick up your object and hold it loosely in your hand or hands. Once again, take stock of your mental, physical, and emotional state now that you have the influence of the object's energy in your field. How do you feel? Did anything shift from how you were feeling before? Do you feel better or worse now? Take a moment to note the difference in feeling with and without your object. Don't worry if you actually feel worse with the object at this point. Ask your gut if this object is for you in this moment. Don't worry if it says no, just continue with the exercise. When you feel ready, using either your elemental method or cleansing with your hands, cleanse your object now and then place it in front of you once more. You can see the chapters on cleansing for more information on how to do this. When you're finished, cleanse your hands using your elemental method or physically wash your hands with intention to remove any residual energy. Then return to your place and once again get the blank state of your body. What does it feel like to be you in this moment? When you have a good sense of your blank state, then once again pick up your object and see how it makes you feel. Is it different now that you've cleansed it? Is it better or worse? Make note of what you feel. In your mind, ask yourself, is this object for me right now? And see what your gut says now that the object has been cleansed. If you happily worked through this exercise and could easily choose, sense, cleanse, and feel the help or healing of the object that you chose, then you nailed it. Way to go. If not, don't worry. It's common to get a bit stuck on this exercise, as it requires you to tap a lot of the work that we've been building up until this point in the book. Continue listening for some troubleshooting ideas to help you overcome common stumbling blocks. Troubleshooting. I don't feel it in my gut or belly, I feel it somewhere else. This is another very common occurrence and is absolutely perfect. It doesn't matter where you feel a sensation change when working with your gut. It only matters that you can tell the difference between a yes and a no. The term gut is definitely not limited to your belly. So maybe you feel it in your head, your heart, your face, your throat, your ears, or your right big toe. Wherever you feel it, as long as you can feel it, is absolutely perfect. The stone says it's not for me anymore. What the heck? Believe it or not, it's not uncommon for people to be called to an object at first, and then get the feeling that the object is not resonating after they've connected with it and cleansed it. Either your gut tells you the object isn't for you, or the object makes you feel worse than you felt in your blank state before picking it up. In my belief system, this is just the object using you to get cleansed. It calls to us asking for help, and then once we've cleansed it, the object is no longer for us. You can just feel good about yourself for helping to rebalance an energy that needed your help. Feel free to try this exercise again with another object that calls you. At some point, you will find things that are actually for you. My stone made me feel worse when I first picked it up, but then I felt better after cleansing. I'm sure this is self-evident, but this experience just means that when you first picked it up, the benefits of the stone were masked by the junky energy it had accumulated. Once you cleansed off the crap, your stone's healing potential was able to connect with your energy and begin the rebalancing process. I feel connected to all of the objects. You may just be very lucky to have pulled a series of objects that you needed in this moment. This will be especially common if you've pulled items that you already own. You can try the exercise again with objects that aren't yours, such as stones from outside or borrowed off someone else, to see if it creates a shift. Side note, be sure to only borrow objects with permission. Energy folk can be quite possessive of their energetic tools, and some tools can be quite bonded to their owners. Think of it like developing a long-term relationship and then having someone else try to step into the middle of it. You could shift the energy, taint the connection, or get some serious kickback. Some items will be happy to be loaned out and others will not. Asking permission is the key to knowing which is which. I can't feel any difference between my blank state and any of the objects that I pick up. My gut wasn't clear either. This happens at least once a class when I'm teaching. Most commonly, if you're getting stuck on the sensing and the gut work, then you haven't finished cleaning out your emotional shit yet. I highly recommend going back to the emotional release chapters and getting your scream, punch, dance, draw, whatever on to clear out that shit and make some space for you to sense. Another common interruption is expectation. One of the best ways to get in your own way with sensing is to clutter up your mind with expectations or performance anxiety. Excitement and anxiety create a fluttering or clenching sensation in the belly and in the lower chest that can really confuse the ability to sense gut answers. If this is happening for you, take some time to scream and journal it out to clear that stuff out of your way and allow you to sense freely. You can view this as an exercise in learning faith and trust. You absolutely can do this. You just need to clear some more space first. This worked for me the first time, but now I can't feel anything. There are two possible reasons for why this exercise worked for you before, but isn't working now. The first and most common is that you've accumulated more trapped emotional crap since your last attempt that needs to be released before you can clearly sense. The second common reason is performance anxiety and expectation. Maybe the sensation is different this time, or with this object, and you're expecting it to be the same as last time. Or maybe you're excited or anxious about the answer and then sensation is blocking your ability to sense your gut. The fix for all of the above problems is getting back to your emotional release work and clearing out the space. Once you have a nice open feeling in your body again, then you can start again and see how it goes. Becoming a master. Practice, practice, practice. You're welcome to repeat this exercise as much as you want. This is a great way to practice developing your psychic skills and also super helpful in life. I use this every time I go shopping or find objects or stones on my adventures to tell if it's for me or not. Over time, I even built my confidence to use this with online shopping and could hold my hand over the screen or focus my intention and check in with my gut to see if online items are for me. Once you've mastered this skill, you'll never be confused or unsure about making choices, about choosing menu items, buying metaphysical supplies, or anything else ever again. Working with pendulums. Because of their simplicity of use, pendulums are often a great place to start when working with psychic tools. They are very easy to get the hang of, and after a few simple steps, you'll be well on your way to connecting with your inner knowing. Pendulums come in a variety of shapes and sizes. You can find them made of stone, metal, seeds, carved figures, and so on. You can even use a necklace with a pendant on it as your pendulum, so long as it has sufficient heft to allow for swinging. Simply take it off and hold your necklace by the chain, allowing the pendant to dangle freely. Picking your pendulum is a great exercise for learning to work with your gut sense as well. You can see the previous chapter for how to feel which pendulum has chosen you. Practical exercise. Basic pendulum use. Preparation. As with everything that we do, the first and most important step is to cleanse whatever tool you are about to use. When you have your pendulum ready, cleanse it using one of the methods listed in the cleansing chapter. Please check with your gut to be sure your pendulum is completely cleansed before moving on to the next step. You can do this by stating, "My pendulum is cleansed and safe," and make sure that feels like a yes in your gut. Once your pendulum is safely cleansed, then you can hold it over your heart and give it a moment to bond with your energy. At first, this may feel uncomfortable and tight or anxious in your chest. That's normal. Take your time and leave the pendulum in place until you feel that sensation relax and open. That's how you will know you have bonded with your pendulum. If it feels like it's taking too long, try sending love energy out of your heart chakra into the pendulum to help speed the process. To begin working with your pendulum, hold the chain using one hand. Pinch the chain between your index finger and thumb and gather the extra tail of the chain into your fist. When you're first beginning, it's a good idea to keep the amount of dangling chain between your fingers and the pendulum limited to reduce the swing size so you can avoid confusion. Shorten up your hanging chain to no more than 4 inches or 10 centimeters. Some people drape the pendulum over their index finger before allowing it to hang. I find with beginners it's often easier to just hang the pendulum straight down from your pinched fingers, but trust your own intuition above all else on what will work for you. When you have a good, comfortable grip on your pendulum, hold your other hand open, flat, palm up, like a table beneath it. Allow for at least 3 centimeters or 1 inch of space between your palm and the pendulum so you don't accidentally touch it during the swing. Your lower hand should never touch the pendulum. The idea is to direct the pendulum with your mind. This is a fantastic test of the current strength of your intention. Learning the language of your pendulum. Now you're ready to learn the language of your particular pendulum. With a strong and demanding feeling straight from your gut, say the following commands out loud or in your head and watch for what sort of response your pendulum gives you. Command 1. Stop. If your pendulum fails to stop when you issue this command, then you need to practice speaking from your gut with more force. If you have to stop your pendulum from swinging by grabbing it or touching it, then you aren't connecting with it enough to get clear readings. See the troubleshooting section for how to get a stubborn pendulum to stop. I recommend using this command before beginning and in between each of your questions. Command 2. Show me yes. Command 3. Show me no. Command 4. Show me I don't know. The most common pendulum responses are swinging front to back, side to side, in a clockwise circle or a counterclockwise circle. Be sure to pay attention to which swings correspond to which answers to help you understand your future pendulum communication. Once you have a feel for the language of your pendulum, you can simply begin asking any yes or no questions that you wish. Unfortunately, the limitation of pendulums is that they can only give you yes, no, or maybe answers. For more detailed responses, check out the card reading chapter that follows. Troubleshooting. I can't get my pendulum to stop when I command it to. This is not an uncommon problem for those of you newer to energetic practice. Commanding a pendulum requires confidence, and that's often in short supply when you're first starting out. In my practice, I call this technique using your lady balls, because ovaries just didn't have the same badass sound. For you gentlemen reading this, I think it's self-evident that you just speak from your regular balls, because there ain't no ladiness about them. No matter your sex, you need to reach down deep and find that strong inner voice. If you're alone, try shouting out loud at your pendulum to stop! You need to find the commanding tone that you would use to stop a distracted toddler in their tracks, because energetic tools often behave as distracted toddlers if given half the chance. If you tend to be more passive and quiet as a person, then this may be a new experience for you. Don't be afraid, practice makes perfect. Just reach down deep and say it from your reproductive organs. If you're still stuck, try getting mad. Anger can often help us tap into our inner fire and determination. My pendulum just vibrates in place no matter what I do. If the pendulum vibrates in place and will not move for you no matter what you ask or command, that's a sign that you are not properly bonded to it or that the pendulum will not work with you. This is a good time to grab a different pendulum and start again from the beginning. I think my pendulum is using a different language than it did last time. It is not uncommon for the language of a pendulum to change with different users or even between different times with the same user. Because of this, it's essential to check in with your commands before beginning any readings. Before you begin, just once again ask your pendulum to show you yes, no, and I don't know or maybe. Dowsing or scrying. Another fun thing you can do with your pendulum is to douse or scry with it. Dowsing, also called scrying in many pagan circles, involves using your pendulum or other assisting energy device, like dowsing rods, to find the location of something or someone. Hundreds of years ago, people would use dowsing rods to locate underground water sources or energy ley lines on the land. They would hold an L-shaped metal rod loosely fisted in each hand and walk around until the bars swung towards each other and crossed. This would tell the user that they had found what they sought. To try dowsing on your own, you simply hold your pendulum over a map or allow it to swing while you are walking in an area to determine the location of something you seek. It will act sort of like the childhood game of hot or cold, with the pendulum changing its swing as you get close to the target you seek. This is one way psychics use to find missing children or objects, and some people use it as a way of finding where to vacation or move to next. For some extra fun challenge, try doing this with your eyes closed or with the map face down, then repeat a few times to see if it always circles the same area each time. Card reading. Another really easy way to start tapping into your inner knowing is with card readings. This can be a great way to get messages and answers, especially when your question is more complicated than a simple yes or no answer, or when you don't even know what questions you should be asking. Card readings come in many different shapes and sizes. There are two general types of card decks used for divination, generally available to the public, although I have heard of traditional psychic families even using playing card decks for their readings. You can use pretty much anything or even make your own as long as each card has an established meaning. You can use the meanings that come with the store-bought deck guidebook, or you can even make up your own meanings. Ultimately, they will be your unique tools and you will create your own sort of language while using them. As you work with a single deck over a long period of time, you will find that you come to understand its language, or it learns how to best communicate with you. Tarot versus Oracle cards. There are two main types of cards used for readings, tarot cards and oracle cards. They are set up quite differently and use different layouts for each. When purchasing your card deck, the easiest way to know whether it's an oracle or tarot deck is to simply read the cover or label. Tarot or tarot-based decks will be directly labeled tarot somewhere on the packaging, and oracle decks will either directly say oracle deck or just won't have the word tarot on the cover anywhere. Most card decks come with a guidebook in the box or packaged with a larger book that provides the meanings to each card. If your deck does not have a guidebook provided, the meanings are most likely written on the cards themselves. And if you don't find sufficient guidance and information from the deck or guidebook, you can also search online for additional meanings. Oracle cards. Oracle cards are a great place to start when you're first learning how to do a card reading. Each deck is unique and the meaning of each card is established by the deck designer. There's no agreed upon order or symbolism used. The decks are often ornate with beautiful artwork and a wide variety of messages. This variety makes it easier to find a particular deck that resonates with you at this moment. When drawing cards from an oracle deck, I prefer to keep things simple and to draw a single card or up to 3 cards for any reading. Because the descriptions of each card are often long and complex, it can be very time-consuming to try to read too many of these cards to answer a single question. Often one card is usually quite enough to get the message you need. That's why this type of deck is wonderful for beginners or for those just looking for a simple answer or a message of the day. Tarot, although spelled T-A-R-O-T like tarot, it's pronounced tarot. The last T is silent. It's an ancient style of deck used for hundreds of years. The order and design of the cards in a tarot deck is always based on the same structure. These decks may vary slightly in their design, colors, names of the suits, and so on, but the foundation will always remain the same. The main body of the deck is set up much like a deck of playing cards, with 4 suits, each having ace through king. This group of cards are called the minor arcana. The suits are most commonly called wands, which is also known as staves or clubs, swords, also known as blades or spades, cups, also known as chalice or hearts, and pentacles, also known as coins or diamonds. On top of these base cards, there are 22 major arcana, which are the higher level cards that you often see referenced in movies and on television, such as the Death card or the Hanged Man, the Wheel of Fortune, and so on. These are considered to have stronger and more powerful meaning when they are pulled in a reading and should be given extra attention. The major arcana are as follows. 0, the Fool. 1, Magician. 2, High Priestess. 3, Empress. 4, Emperor. 5, Hierophant. 6, Lovers. 7, Chariot. 8, Strength. 9, Hermit. 10, Wheel of Fortune. 11, Justice. 12, Hanged Man. 13, Death. 14, Temperance. 15, Devil. 16, Tower. 17, Star. 18, Moon. 19, Sun. 20, Judgment. 21, World. No matter the tarot deck you use, the general meanings of the cards will be the same, even if slightly different symbols or names are used. So once you learn tarot, you'll be able to apply your knowledge to all tarot decks. Tarot cards can be much more complex to read than oracle cards, but are also more versatile. Tarot can be simply read by pulling 1 to 3 cards like with oracle cards, or it can be read in complex and many layered spreads that give much more depth and detail to your readings. Unfortunately, teaching full tarot spreads is well beyond the scope of this book. If you feel at all called to tarot cards for your psychic work, I strongly recommend doing further research or taking courses in reading tarot to build your skills. It can take a lifetime to fully appreciate the depth of tarot meanings. I've been reading tarot since I got my first deck in my early teens, and while I can read without the guidance of the guidebook that comes with that deck, I continue to learn more about my cards and their meanings and communication with me every year that passes. Because each card has many levels of meaning that can be affected by the surrounding cards, reading tarot is a skill that is often a lifetime pursuit. Cleansing and preparing your deck. There are a lot of beliefs surrounding card decks with many rules and regulations on how they should be cleansed, what they should be wrapped in, how they should be stored, and whether or not you should ever let anyone else touch yours. As with everything else I recommend, I suggest you find the systems and storage that works best for you. We are all unique and have to find our own way that resonates with our unique soul truth. No matter your belief base, when getting a new or dirty deck, or when using a deck you haven't connected with in a while, it's generally a good idea to cleanse the energy and reconnect to your deck to allow it to better communicate with you at your current level. Each deck will speak to you in its own way. I found that even two different packs of the exact same deck from the same printing will use different cards to give similar messages and may have slightly different angles on the meanings of their cards. Because of this, it's important to bond with your deck before doing readings to ensure your energies are in resonance and you are speaking the same language in order to get a clear and accurate result. There are endless ways to cleanse your deck. Some examples are smudging, clearing the energy with your hands, knocking on it from 1 to 5 times or more. Traditionally, 3 knocks are used, but trust your gut for the number that's right for you. Blowing into the deck. Because our breath contains our essence, blowing through the deck can remove unwanted energy and help imprint our energy onto the cards at the same time. Elemental cleansing, storing with cleansing crystals, leaving the deck in sunlight or moonlight for a period of time. The downside. Unfortunately, as with all things psychic, if you are emotionally involved in your reading, you will not necessarily get the truth. Instead, you will be told exactly what you want to hear. Obviously, this can make reading for yourself incredibly difficult and frustrating, if not impossible. In order to clearly read with any divining method, you must be relaxed, completely open, and unbiased. If you become tense, anxious, excited, sad, mad, or any other strong emotion or sensation, it will disrupt your ability to read clearly. This includes performance anxiety and having expectations of what the answer will be, so make sure you practice and gain confidence before attempting to read for others. Really focus on having an open mind and an open and flowing gut sensation before you begin. This is a great lesson in letting go and can be especially challenging for those of us that are control-oriented, aka control freaks. It can take a lot of practice and a lot of emotional release work to get into that open state. And for some emotionally charged subjects, it probably just won't be possible. In these cases, I always recommend getting a reading done by someone else who isn't emotionally involved in the outcome. There are usually professional card readers in most areas around the world who should be able to help you. Practical exercise, basic card reading. Begin this exercise by picking up a deck of your choosing. If you are a complete beginner, then I recommend trying an oracle card deck first to help keep things simple. But trust your gut about which deck is right for you at this time. Don't open the deck or pull it apart just yet. Leave it in its box until you've cleansed and bonded with your deck. Cleansing and bonding with your deck. In my classes, when I teach card reading, I suggest students knock on the deck whatever number of times works for them, and then blow into it with the intention to clear any unwanted energy and to imprint our energy onto the deck. Then I ask that you check that the deck is actually cleansed and light. If the cleansing is not yet completed, then we have you repeat the process by cleansing with your hands or your elemental cleansing method. When you are sure the energy is safe, and never before that moment, hold the deck over your heart to allow the cards to bond with your energy. When holding the deck over your heart, it's absolutely normal to feel an uncomfortable and slightly tight sensation in the chest. If you can continue to hold the deck there and send it love from your heart center, after a few moments you should feel the sensation in your chest relax and open. When you feel comfortable and happy in your heart chakra once more, then you know you've bonded with your deck and you can begin. Starting your reading. Properly cleansing and bonding with your deck is essential to getting a clear and honest reading. No matter what type of deck you've decided to start with, the easiest type for reading for beginners is 1, 2, or 3 card reading. When you feel ready and have a nice, relaxed space in your gut, then you can open up your deck box or bag and remove the card deck and guide booklet if there is one. Begin shuffling the cards in your hands. There's no exact technique for this, and often the size of the deck will only allow for very basic shuffling. Just do what works for you. You're not dealing poker, so the shuffling doesn't have to be extensive. While you're shuffling, set your intention to receive messages from the positive energy source of your choosing. Pick whatever resonates for you. Here are some examples. Your higher knowing, soul truth, God, creator, source, the light consciousness, the Christ consciousness, angels or light beings, love light, or guides. Once you've set your intention, begin to focus on your question as you continue to shuffle. You can ask absolutely anything you would like answered. While some people already have burning questions they cannot wait to ask, many people have no idea what to ask at first. If you are unsure what to ask as you start out, then I recommend simply stating, "What do I need to know in this moment?" Picking your cards. Continue shuffling mindlessly in a way that allows you to settle into your own rhythm and shift your focus from shuffling the cards onto your question instead. Often as we achieve this mindless shuffling state, a card or a few cards will simply fall or jump out of the deck. This isn't a mistake. These are your cards. Just lay them in the order they fell and read them as is. If nothing falls out of the deck after you've been shuffling for a while and have a good rhythm, simply stop shuffling when the time feels right. While holding your question in your mind, you can cut the deck if you feel drawn to, or just draw the number of cards you feel the need to draw and turn them face up in front of you. Reversals. Some cards may come out upside down from your perspective. In a card reading, this is called reversed. Reversed cards often have the opposite meaning to the upright card. When you're first learning to read cards, I suggest setting the intention at the beginning that you will not be reading reversals, and thus you can just turn all cards right side up as you flip them. If you choose not to set that intention prior to starting, then just read the reversed meaning in the guidebook for any upside down cards. Usually, the reversed card description will follow the regular card explanation in the guidebook. If you don't see the reverse title in the book, then your deck doesn't use reversals, and you can read the upright meaning instead. Tarot cards always have reversals, but you don't always have to use them. Trust your gut for what answer is right for you. Troubleshooting. I've laid out my tarot cards and I'm still not sure what they mean. Because the meanings of tarot cards are a bit more vague and open to interpretation, sometimes the initial meaning of our laid cards isn't clear. I usually lay 3 cards as my basic reading in tarot. When they aren't immediately clear, I will lay 1 card on the 4 corners of each of the 3 original cards, like a square around each card, while asking for the meaning of the underlying card to be clarified. Usually the meanings of the 4 cards surrounding each initial spread card will expand upon the initial meaning and help to clarify the answer. Generally, once I've done this for each card, the overall meaning of the spread becomes clear. I've laid my spread and expanded on it with more cards, and I still have no idea what my answer means. This is not at all strange, especially when we're first learning a new deck. It can commonly take many readings before we perfect the language of communication between us and our decks. It can also be caused by not focusing on your question as you pull the cards, and so getting responses to your random thoughts or the conversation of the people next to you that you were listening to, resulting in a gibberish answer. My best recommendation in a case like this is just to pick up your cards, focus, reset your intention, and try again. I keep getting the same card over and over, even when I'm asking different questions. Believe it or not, this actually isn't an unusual experience. Oftentimes, the answers that we need to hear come through more strongly than the ones that we want to get at that moment. If your guides have been waiting a long time to give you a message for your greatest good, they may hijack the first opportunity to talk to you and start telling you what you need to know rather than answering your questions. If you keep pulling the same card over and over, even to different questions, you may want to take the card's meaning to heart, as though it was the answer to, what do I need to know in this moment? Other times, the deck is telling you that it doesn't want to work with you. I have a fairy card deck that I allow others to use in the practical part of my Psychic Gifts Apprentice course that absolutely refused to talk to me for the first year that I had it. Anytime I drew a card, I always got the response of quiet time, which after the 3rd separate session of reading attempts, I realized was the deck saying, shut up and go away. Once I started teaching, I realized that the deck had called to me so I could share it with others, not use it for myself. It's often a favorite of my students now and seems to work wonderfully for them. If this is happening with a deck that you own, please respect the wishes of the deck and consider giving it to someone else.